how's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Hack Slash Super Sidekick Sleepover Slaughter. And overall, this is a pretty cool hack slash story, taking a slasher and having him go up against a bunch of kids that are very much the kids from an average teenage slasher movie, but this time they have super strength. They don't necessarily know what to do or how to use it, but they're in this secluded secret laboratory getting picked off by a slasher that might be Sam. Yeah, that's a thing. The person that killed the last two incarnations of this main superhero was Sam back when he was controlled by the cult, and now we get this assassin showing up, even though Sam's supposed to be good, that looks like a superhero version of him, and Cassie can't get him on the phone, so what's going on with that? Is Sam still a good guy? Well, I will say this gets pretty fun towards the end when the super teens start to get picked off and it starts to really feel like a slasher movie. And then when Cassie finally gets to this base, it does turn into some big over-the-top crazy stuff. That being said, it does take her a bit to get there because she has to do this whole thing where she has to infiltrate this gang of supervillains. And I think that is a thing with this, is it's fine, but it's kind of weird that this story got 3 issues, really 4 if you count the prologue. I've seen Hack Slash do some crazy stories in a single issue, and I'm not quite sure why this got so many. I mean, I would have loved to take one of these issues and give that to, say, Over the Rainbow or something, a story that I would love to have seen more from. So yeah, it's a little long, and it's oddly the last thing in the original Devil's Due run. Yeah, Hack Slash would originally be published under Devil's Due. They went from one-shots in a miniseries to a full-blown series, but eventually they would have to go over to Image to continue the comic. And when they went to Image, they would get more stories, so the Hack Slash story doesn't really end here. But it is super weird that this is a finale to the Hack Slash arc. It has a little bit to do with Sam and the Black Lamp Society, but it's not really wrapping up those stories. And being a superhero thing rather than a slasher thing kind of makes the whole thing feel like an aside, you know, like, hey, this is Hack Slash going off and doing something a little bit different. So it's not really the big end cap to the series that I wanted it to be. It's a fun little Hack Slash adventure, but it's not really the finale that I wanted out of it. But again, luckily they would go over to Image and continue, so this isn't really the end. Although I will say, between this getting 4 issues, and then right after this, you jump into the 2-issue Halloween Man crossover. Yeah, the last third or so of this omnibus is oddly superhero heavy. And I mean, I like superheroes fine, and it's a fun little aside for Hack Slash to do. But boy, we've gotten quite a lot of it lately, and I'll be glad when I get to Omnibus 4, and I'm hoping for a lot more just horror stuff, horror and slashers. So we'll see what happens when we get there. Overall, a fun story, a bit too long, and focusing a bit on something that I'd rather we would have gotten a big ending to the series for, but whatever, minor complaints. Teens with superheroes in a secret laboratory, that's fun. Who cares, right? Anyway though, if you guys want to see a little bit more from this story, I'm going to switch to the close-up camera. I'll show you guys a little bit of the story and the art, and I'll talk about a few plot points. I'll be avoiding major spoilers though, so without further ado, let's switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle, taking a closer look at Super Sidekick Sleepover Slaughter. Once again, we're inside Hack Slash Omnibus 3, and let's bring it closer to the camera. Writer, as always, is Tim Seeley, and pan it over here, and we get to see that the art is by Dan Leister, and we can see that this is originally issues 30 to 32. And if we pan up, we can see that the prologue was 29, so this whole thing altogether is 4 issues, which is pretty long. And also, if we notice what's below it, those are both crossovers from other comics. So yeah, this is the end of the original Hack/Slash Devil's Due run, but don't worry, Image Comics would pick them up after this, and we would continue the series. As I pointed out in my review of the prologue, when you get to the actual comics pages themselves, they just divide them with one cover sheet, and I really wish they had done two. If they were going to list the prologue as a separate piece in the credits, they really should have had two cover sheets, but whatever. As we can see, this is actually the cover for 29, even though a lot of these superheroes behind Cassie, we wouldn't really get to see in full detail until the main part of the story. But if you're wondering where the prologue ends, that's at this panel right here. After that, we get into the main part of the story proper. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points, show you guys a bit of the story and the art, and kind of talk about it, but I'll be avoiding the end, so no major spoilers. We open up at this club in New Jersey, and we get to see legally distinct versions of Wonder Woman and Power Girl, and they've got this villain in quite the predicament. But of course, this is just a club, and we get to see that an older version of Sister Sacrilege runs it, and yeah, maybe the villain's glory days are behind them. Well, we then cut to that secret facility that the teens somehow found, and we get to see the main guy filming himself as he experiments with his new powers. They found something called the God Box, and while they don't understand it fully, they're using it to give themselves super strength, and this kid becomes the new Nightmare. And after that, he decides to call Alan Knight before his show, and he explains that he's figured out the God Box, and him and his friends are going to be superheroes. While Alan warns him against this, even though it just happened, it looks like it's already too late. And I do like they say the kids only have the super strength, so they don't necessarily have things like invulnerability or super speed, or even really know how to use it. Like when this kid punches into this wall, he's gonna get his hand stuck because he's got it a full half arm into the wall, and that's not going to be good for him. Well, Alan hears about the death over the phone and is going to try to get Cassie and Vlad for help, and he's going to point them in the direction of Sister Sacrilege, who, because she retired from villainy and Alan saved her life, they've become decently good friends nowadays. And here Sister Sacrilege is going to explain what exactly the God Box is. It turns out that while most of the superheroes and villains had no real power, there was one called Phantoma, and it turns out she was from the same section of the jungle as that mysterious black flower that creates slashers came from. Yeah, we can see how these supervillains kept running into problems with the Black Lamp Society. But anyway, it appears that one of the supervillains did manage to capture and create the God Box out of her, but no one really knows what happened, just that somewhere in the world there's a machine that can give you superpowers. Well, apparently one supervillain knows where it is, but they can't just go and ask him. They have to infiltrate the organization, and what better way to do that than have Cassie be the new Sister Sacrilege? We of course get the funny page of them in their costumes for the first time, and Vlad has to be the sidekick altar boy there. Yeah. I won't go much farther in Cassie's plot after that. I don't want to ruin anything, but I will say the club they meet the villains at, they were told it's the mysterious Arctic Lair, but they're not actually going to the Arctic. They're going to a club called the Arctic Lair where supervillains meet up. Yeah, these are real washed-up supervillains, but they are supervillains, and they do know where the God Box is, so maybe there's going to be something a little more dangerous here than you think. Well, the kids head down, not really knowing what happened to the guy that organized this whole thing in the first place, and you can tell from the fact that it seems like most of what they brought is beer, that they're not taking this too seriously. They very much are the kids that die in a slasher movie, but this time around they're getting superpowers. Do they have a great set of superpowers, and do they know what to do with them? Probably not. They goof around, try on their costumes, and well, it appears that the machine does actually work. But we're gonna get a bunch of drama between all the couples, and they're of course going to want to sneak off. But sneaking off together in a slasher movie is never a great idea. Even if you have superpowers, you do have an assailant there that is going to be coming after you. But there's also a mystery behind who this person is. It's a slasher that looks a lot like Sam, but does have a different design. I mean, that's like a superhero version of Sam, so who is this person, and what's going on? Did Sam go evil again? Is this someone else? And if so, who and why? We do get a bit of a Scream-style mystery there, and because Cassie can't get either of them on the phone, we don't really know what's happening. One more group we have to check in with. We do get a little bit of Chris and Lisa, or should I say Chris and the new sheriff. Yeah, when what you're doing is questionably legal, I guess it is good to buddy up with the law, but you have to understand where Chris is lately. He rushed into an unexpected romance and now he already has a baby, and people are going to get super suspicious when he starts hanging out with a new female friend. Yeah, what exactly is going on here, Chris? I do also like how they play it where Lisa is suspicious, but she's not quick to judge him. But we do get this balanced out with Pooch there, who is super suspicious, and yeah, Pooch is not happy about this new situation at all. I will say overall, when the story does finally get going, you know, it takes Cassie a while to get to the slasher because she has to infiltrate the villains, but when she finally gets there, it does really heat up and the story does build to a really cool climax. And also when you get the slasher picking off all these kids and they have superpowers but they don't know how to use them, it does very much feel like a slasher movie, but with that superhero twist on it. That being said, as I said earlier, the back part of this book is strangely superhero heavy, and I don't know if we needed 4 full issues to tell this whole story. Overall, it's interesting, kind of different, but I'm glad that this wasn't where Hack Slash ended on, because it would be a super weird note to have this slasher comic that just ends on this weird superhero story. I am glad they would continue to tell their story, and I can't wait to get into the Image years because, like, the superheroes are fun and stuff, but I want to go back to some classic horror and slasher stuff, and I do like how I have 3 whole omnibuses after this. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Hack Slash playlist, where you can see me talk about past plot arcs of the series. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist here. Have a good day now.